Let me make sure that. Okay, yeah, okay. I muted the headset and it still works, so it usually means it's working fine.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Check it.
Kicks my mom.
Not my real dad.
Yes. Yes. Derek Comedy. Yes.
Those are fantastic times, man.
Hell yeah.
Back when what's his name? Donald Glover was not.
Yes.
What is he now? Gambino, Childish Gambino, or whatever.
Lando Calrissian.
Whatever. He has like his
childish Lando.
Childish Gambino's like his whole hip hop identity now. But to me, he was in the rape. That's like his whole thing.
Oh, I always know him as my name's Jeffrey and I like to skateboard. I would never do anything embarrassing like poop my pants.
That was a great skit. Yeah, man, those good times.
Look up Derek Comedy if you have no idea what the hell we're talking about. Google some classic YouTube Derek Comedy.
Oh yeah, was that might have been it was right when the YouTube era began.
Yeah.
That was borderline like, pre-YouTube.
Yeah, that's like super early YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh,
good times.
Derek Comedy. Welcome to the Good Games Podcast. My name is James.
I'm Leo.
And there's still no John. He's still dead from Halloween. He's still a ghost.
We are not past Halloween yet, so this is all part of the spooky month. Where's John?
That's right. Yeah. If you're wondering where our Halloween episode is, it's the last episode we did. Yeah. Because this is Halloween week, but we're putting out a normal episode because, I don't know, we suck. But
technically they won't probably hear this till after Halloween.
Oh, I'm gonna get this up, man.
Okay,
I'm gonna have this posted before Halloween.
Okay.
But anyway, if you're looking for some spooky games, go listen to our last episode. We covered the popular board game Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
That was a fun episode.
That was a fun episode. But by the way, I am 3 scenarios into Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
Yeah, how's that going?
It's good. The Betrayal Legacy. It is good.
Legacy, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would also recommend last year's Halloween episode where we talked about the original Resident Evil and its remake. And earlier this year, we covered Resident Evil 2, the remake. So, yeah, you could listen to our thoughts on the remakes of various Resident Evil games if you're looking for something spooky. But today, we're talking about... It's not spooky. I don't know. I was trying to make a segue there, but it's not spooky.
It can be spooky depending on which fan theory you.
Yeah, you know what? There's some spooky parts in this game.
Are some spooky parts.
Spooky, scary Final Fantasy VIII. That's what they call it.
I don't know. That's a stretch.
We're talking about Final Fantasy VIII. Yeah, I'm reaching. Why are we talking about Final Fantasy VIII, Leo? We haven't talked about any other Final Fantasy games on this podcast. And we're starting with Final Fantasy VIII. Why are we talking about this game?
It is a bit odd, but I think presumably the reasoning is because Final Fantasy VIII HD remaster was recently released.
That is true. That recently
graced our eyeballs with a better number of pixels on our screens.
Yeah, for the character models at least. Yeah. You want to dive right into? By the way. I have a couple issues I take with the HD remaster. Did you notice there's a couple scenes where like the most noticeable scene is in Galbadia, the big city. No, Delling. That's the big city. Delling City.
Yeah.
Where there's like a whole bunch of people, but they decided not to draw character models for all the people, so they just like painted them into the background. But there's like a smoothing filter over the background, so it just looks like there's a bunch of blurry people in the background.
Yeah.
Did you notice this? This happens a couple times in the garden, too. There's just like blurry people painted into the background.
Yeah.
One thing that is like quantifiably worse about the HD remaster is they got a little lazy with some of the like NPC character models and were just like, we'll just throw them into the background, which could have looked fine, but then they put a blur filter over the background, so it extra clashes with the HD character models.
To be fair, though, they pretty much had to reverse engineer all of this code because it wasn't in source control. So
they did. Yeah, they apparently did not have this game in source control, so they reverse engineered, I would assume, the PC version, and rebuilt it, substituting some.
Which is a crazy story all on its own.
Yeah, I will say the character models look really great. That's a good.
Yeah,
that's a good. I am kind of disappointed. Have you seen some of the fan work with FF7 and FF9, specifically retouching those backgrounds with like it's like a
no, I haven't.
It's like an AI algorithm they use, or a neural network algorithm that they use to retouch the background. Yeah, go Google that right now. It's amazing. It just looks like the original FF7 and FF9 backgrounds, but they're in super like 4K texture. You're like, holy shit. Anyway, there's some fan mods that have subbed those awesome looking textures into the game. I was kind of hoping Square would go the extra mile and do something like that, but no.
They just kind of
blurred.
Yeah.
They kind of just put a soft blur over the background, and it looks fine. It's fine. It works.
Yeah, I mean,
it's fine.
To me, it's just like it doesn't look any worse than trying to play a PS1 game on an HD TV, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is good enough. And then on top of that, you have the updated character models, which is really what it's about for me.
The character models do look great. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I do see some of these 4K.
Aren't those amazing
stages in FF7? Though it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now you're the best looking guy here at the dance. That's not that's not a joke anymore.
My favorite part about this whole thing was that they actually embraced that meme to announce this on Twitter or whatever.
Square Enix marketing was on point with that one.
Yeah.
So I guess we should actually start talking about this game.
Let's talk about it from a context of you and I. We have a lot of history together, and throughout our days of friendship, we go back a ways, and it's been a known thing between you and I that I am an avid fan of Final Fantasy VIII.
But whereas I know that you're wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So I'm curious to know, having recently replayed it, what your overall thoughts are on the game. Again.
Okay. And let me tell you, I have some extra perspective on this one because I have also all this year, I have replayed FF10, FF9. I'm going to play FF7 at the end of this year to prepare for the HD remake. But I've been playing a lot of the classic Final Fantasy. I actually finished right before I started 8. I had finished 9 and 10.
Right.
And it's really weird for me because 7 and 9 are two of my favorites in the series, and it's weird to have this black sheep that's sandwiched in between two of my favorite games.
Right.
How does it hold up? It's about what I remembered.
Really?
It's a very poorly paced, frustratingly broken mess of a story video game that I somehow still kind of like.
I guess that's adequate.
Yeah. I don't know. My opinion on this game didn't really change. It was kind of exactly the way I remembered it. It's been maybe close to 10 years since I revisited. No, that's not true. I played the first disc of it.
Yeah, I'm sure you revisited parts of it. Earlier.
Yeah. But the last time I did a full playthrough. No, that's not true either. I don't know. It's been at least 5 years since I've done a full playthrough of this game, and it's basically what I remembered. I don't. What about you? How was your revisit experience?
I mean, I would agree. Basically, what I remember as well. I don't think it's there's any kind of misconception I have in my head about the game. But for me,
Right.
it's a mostly positive experience. And I know it's not a perfect game, but I think it just really happens to gel with me and my views on life and my tastes on setting, maybe, and kind of the design of the game. It just I guess gels really well with me. So I guess
You know what? I'm gonna second that. Actually, I really like the setting, all of the cities. I like.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Like I will say, this is you can go back and listen to our best top 5 soundtracks. This is like my all-time favorite video game soundtrack.
So
I
good.
love the soundtrack to FF8, and I think that's probably part of what makes me like this game, or like makes me. I will fully admit
that I think those kind of auxiliary parts of the game, carry the game. Like, I don't think this game has a particularly awesome game design or game mechanics. I do think the style, the setting, the soundtrack carries the game for me, for sure. But it carries it to the point where I love it. And for you tolerate it.
Oh, no. I tolerate, And I was thinking about that the entire time I played this game. I was like, the story is nonsense. I fucking hate all the characters in this story. Like, that is not a selling point. I fucking hate the battle system. It's the most tedious, broken piece of shit. And I'm like, why am I playing this game? Like, why am I still here? Like, why am I doing this?
It's just so stylish, you know? It's like, there's no other Final Fantasy like it. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
I mean, just like it's so unique. Yeah. The schools and the modern kind of costume design and stuff. FF7 kind of had that sort of feel too, but this one just brought it like a little extra step further. It just had almost like this kind of dystopian future. I don't know. And then the soundtrack and then the cinematics are kind of cheesy now, but they were awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not even a dystopian future. It's kind of cheerful for the most part.
I guess so, yeah. It's just a little weird, right? Like, you got all these Galbadian soldiers.
Weird. Oh, it's weird as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not as dystopian as like FF7 or FF6.
That's true. I mean, it's a little bit less sad and oppressive
than its predecessors. Yeah, it's a little more cheerful and upbeat, at least for the first part of the game.
And that's almost part of its charm, too. It's kind of like how I envision... Like, if you really think about what Harry Potter is, like Harry Potter, there's like all these schools that are training people to shoot magic in a lethal manner, and then this guy comes and starts killing everyone. If you think about it, it's like really kind of dark shit is happening in that series, but the whole time they're like, "Ooh, run," you know, and it's kind of like it's kind of childlike and happy. I think FF8 is in a similar vein where like, I don't know. Yeah, they are kind of silly about it, and they're kind of upbeat, but it's kind of there's just kind of some weird stuff going on.
There's definitely some weird stuff going on. There is. I'll give you that. There's a je ne sais quoi. There's a there's an element to this game that is hard to pin down. It is tough to define.
Yeah.
What makes this game interesting? Like I couldn't pin it down. Like I actively felt frustrated with the boring combat, and like I was just making fun of how nonsense the fucking story is, and I'm like, what? But I'm still here. I'm still enjoying myself. Like, I'm still playing this.
Now let's talk about the combat, because I know that's been a point for you throughout all the years. It's a miserable mess, and while I agree that it's not perfect, and I do think there are better systems in other Final Fantasies, I never thought it was really like that bad, like as bad as like the way you put it. So like, what specifically about the battle system makes you so unhappy?
Here's the thing with the battle system, and maybe we should give. For somebody who's never played this game before, let me just give a general overview. But by the way, let's approach this from somebody who has no idea what the fuck Final Fantasy is, and somehow is still listening to this podcast.
No, there's no such people exist, but okay.
Yeah, all right, yeah. I'm talking to an imaginary person now, but hello, imaginary person. Final Fantasy is a series that is like, it's like this loosely connected series of games, but like none of the characters or events or plots or universes carry over. Only like
names,
like names and like items. Some of the items are the same. Like you have a framework, and like some of the like monsters are the same. You have a framework that you have like a familiar framework that gets recycled from game to game. But the characters, the plot, the battle system, everything gets completely recycled game to game. And this is a JRPG, by the way, a Japanese role-playing game that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the 8th one in the series, and it is kind of known as a black sheep. And I say it's a black sheep partially because of the combat. And so to respond to your question about why I think the combat is broken, so I think a first-time player of this game is probably not going to find the combat broken. They'll probably find it tedious, right? But not broken.
I get tedious.
Okay. There's two main things that make it broken for me. First is the draw system, which of course is the most criticized part about Final Fantasy VIII.
I get it.
So the way magic works in most RPGs and in most other games in the series is you have like a mana bar, right? Which is, your magic meter that as you cast spells, your magic points get consumed from that meter, right? In Final Fantasy VIII, magic is like an item. So as you use a spell, you lose that item, which would be a pretty interesting system on its own. But the weird thing they have this what they call the draw system, where you can like sit there and like spam like acquiring magic from monsters. They call it drawing, which I mean,
you draw magic out of monsters, right? That means,
yeah. Which like that, you can make that tedious if you want to get a lot of magic, but you aren't incentivized to do that if it's not for what they call the junction system, where you can tie your statistical attributes and give them boosts by tying them to magic spells.
I think it's so cool.
And fuck right off. No, it's not.
I think it's cool.
I mean, maybe the idea is cool.
No, the idea is cool. The idea is cool. The execution is poor.
The execution of the idea is bungled beyond belief.
No, I get that.
Because what it encourages you to just farm all of the spells, right? Yeah. You want 100 because they cap the limit at 100. You want 100 of all the best spells.
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't end there either. The grind doesn't end there if you're smart.
What do you mean?
Well, this run through, I spent the first 10 hours of the game in the first chronological 10 minutes of the game, just drawing magic and then leveling up my summons who give you these abilities as you train. You get like what is AP? I forget what AP stands for, but you get this action points or whatever. Those level up your GF's kind of learning ability, and like they have some sort of skill slotted, and they'll like learn that skill after you earn enough AP. And once you have 100 of each magic, you actually can use a skill on your summons to turn that magic into like the next level of magic. So in Final Fantasy series, there's kind of tiers of the magic system. So like a fire is less than like a fire, which is less than a fire, and they get more and more stronger with each kind of tier. And so you can be at the very beginning of the game, if you spend enough hours drawing magic and leveling up your summons abilities, you can be, instead of slotting in fires like you would normally be at level 5 in the beginning of the game, you could be slotting in fire and increasing your stats substantially.
So, like, if you like, maybe some people listening to this are like, yeah, okay, so a lot of RPGs are grindy, like, so what? But the problem with the junction system is the statistical boosts you get from junctioning magic are so disproportionately huge to, like, doing anything else, like just grinding for levels or, like, You get these huge boosts out of junctioning magic. So you're like really incentivized to get mass quantities of all the best spells, which is very, very tedious.
Yeah.
The game just kind of incentivizes tedium, which is like not broken, but just bad design. Okay, the thing that's broken in this game is limits. Do they call them limits in this game? Yeah, they call them limit break. No, wait, are they limits? I can't remember.
I mean, they're basically limit breaks. Every Final Fantasy has some version of it, right?
So
or maybe a limit break. I can't tell.
Okay, so the limit breaks kind of way. Okay, so limit breaks are like your character's special abilities, right? And the idea is, and it's different in every Final Fantasy game, and some Final Fantasy games don't even have them, but in most of them, the idea is, so like in Final Fantasy VII, after you take a certain amount of damage, your character goes into a limit break where they can execute a special move that does above average, way more than normal amount of damage, which is cool. But they're very, very broken in Final Fantasy VIII. So Squall's limit break. What's it called? God, why can't I just finished this game? Why can't I remember the names of anything?
Or something.
Renzo Kuken, yeah, Renzo Kuken. Yeah. So Squall's limit break is so incredibly good. It does like a massive amount of damage. But the problem with it is how it triggers. It triggers when randomly, first of all, it triggers randomly when you're below, I think it's like a fourth HP. And the closer HP you are to 0, the more likely it is to trigger.
Right.
Which normally isn't a problem. That sounds like a high risk, high reward mechanic, right? If you have your characters close to dying, you'll become more powerful, but you're close to dying, right? High risk, high reward. Mm-hmm. The problem is you can keep re-rolling that random chance as many times as you want by simply passing the character's turn and cycling back to that character again, and it re-rolls the random chance to get the limit break. So you can just abuse that and get a limit break every single.
Not only that, but if you have all those like souped up stats on Squall's HP, his HP is high enough such that when you're at a quarter of his HP, it's still like pretty high HP. So like the chance that it'll trigger is already pretty high when he's like a pretty healthy HP amount too. So yeah, that can be kind of broken.
Exactly. So it's not even high risk, high reward anymore. It's just straight up broken.
Yeah, and I get that, but I mean, like, how many people are really taking advantage of that broken system?
Well, and that's what I mean. Like, on your first time play, you might not notice some of these broken things. Like, you might find the drawing and junctioning thing a little tedious. Right. But it's only after you get like intimately familiar with the game's battle mechanics that you're like, oh, this is broken as fuck. And once you know that, the game is completely broken. Or at least it is for me. I kind of tried playing the game without limit breaks for a while to see if it's just I don't know. I can't. It's a bad between the limit breaks, the drawing, and the junction system. I just hate everything about the FF8 battle system. I hate the whole thing.
But the thing is, too, like, the thing I like about it is you're not required to grind levels like you do in most JRPGs.
No, you're not.
So the fact that you have to tediously draw magic, I've always felt it's like a trade-off, you know? It's like, oh, well, instead of going around killing the same, crappy monster 50 million times, now you can just work on drawing this magic and junctioning it and upgrading it and like doing all this stuff and get stronger that way. So I don't know.
Yeah, but you're not, when you're drawing, you're not doing anything interesting. You're just like selecting the same command over and over again.
It's got a little bit of a kind of micromanage. It hits a certain OCD part of me that's just like, oh, I'm managing my magics, then I'm equipping this, and like this stat gets better, and then like in a couple of more combats, my GF will level up, and then I can start using this ability to level up, like upgrade all these types of magics, and then their strength bonus will go up by this percentage. Like,
yeah, okay.
I will say numbers game part of me that I like.
I will say I like all of the like GFs and GF abilities. That's cool. I dig that.
Yeah. But I get, I'm with you though on the broken limits and the tediousness of drawing. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
It's not perfect.
No.
Yeah.
That needed to go back to the drawing board.
All right, so I think we've beat the horse to death or whatever in terms of
we killed that horse.
Battle and whatever. But now let's talk about the other kind of glaring problem with Final Fantasy VIII by most standards, and that is the story.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on here?
I don't know. If I'm looking at the story as a whole, I don't know what the fuck. I playing through this game, I got to a point in the story where I was like, there's got to be a fucking explanation for this. There's got to be like two people had like competing ideas for what they wanted to happen in the story, and they couldn't compromise, so they just did both. Or like there had to be like some sort of time crunch, and they had to like cut giant portions of the game, which apparently was true. Laguna, all this shit with Laguna, that was supposed to be like 50% of the game. That was supposed to be like way more of the game playing as Laguna.
Right.
But that had to get scrapped. So you only play, I don't know, 20% of the game is Laguna. Maybe not even, maybe 10%.
Sure, it's less than that,
yeah. I don't know what the fuck is going on with this game's story.
So here's the thing. I definitely like that theory about, what if they just had to cut so many parts out and people had like conflicting ideas because okay, the first disc of this game is fantastic story-wise. It is it's cohesive.
I mean, I don't know about fantastic, but it's cohesive.
It's cohesive. Okay, I think it's fantastic. I think
it's cohesive.
It's got this so it's like the military school, and it's creating this, these, I don't know, super soldier kids, and then suddenly they've got this mission to assassinate, or first it's to get the president, and he meets this girl, and then he kind of is trying to get in her pants, so then he helps her assassinate.
Yeah, by the way, time out for a second.
Yeah.
Why does Renoa want to get in Squall's pants? I can't figure this out. He's such a fucking loser.
Well, hey,
why?
Okay, well, hold on. All right, so before we break down the overall story, you want to get to the character? Okay, don't even go there. Squall Leonhardt is
a loser.
He's a loser. He is a shy guy, and he's
not shy.
He internalizes his emotions and he's like not willing to talk about his emotions. And I relate to that. He's like a piece
of shit, though. He's like, okay, I get not wanting to talk about emotions, but he like actively pushes everyone away. He's like, I don't need your help. I don't want your help. Well, yeah, he's got problems, but why do people want to get in his pants? Why?
Some women are just, they want to kind of be like the nurturer, kind of like they see a broken man and they just kind of want to help fix him. And that, I think, is her drive.
I guess.
I don't know that that's particularly a bright idea or a good trait in her, but I think that's what it is.
What's even more weird is they kind of initially, when they meet Renoa and Squall. By the way, Final Fantasy VIII, it's kind of it's a mess, but the story it's like a love story.
It is a
between these two characters. When they first meet, they kind of butt heads, and then Renoa gets to learn a little bit about Squall and like who he is, and learns that he's a piece of shit, and then falls in love with him, which like.
Well, girls like, bad dudes, like you're a tough guy, That's what I heard.
I guess. Anyway, back to the story. Sorry, we got derailed.
Well,
I derailed you. Back to the story.
No, but that's part of the story. The part of the story is ultimately it is a love story, I think, is the only thing that keeps it cohesively a thing, like throughout the entire thing. Like the first disc, it's cohesive in the sense of like, oh, it's this cool like military kind of fantasy thing, and then what you start to realize is no, it's not, and it actually gets kind of crazy, and then time travel is involved and space travel, and it gets to this other kind of like crazy sci-fi thing, but then it all circles back to being about the love.
I will say this: every Final Fantasy game has a tendency to go up its own ass.
I mean, it's called Final Fantasy for a reason. Like, it's got to be epic.
Final Fantasy VIII, like, goes up its own ass, comes out the mouth, goes up its own ass again, and like creates like this weird ass vortex where I don't know what up is down, and like at the end of the game, nothing makes fucking sense anymore. You're just like, all right, whatever. I guess we're going to the fucking moon now. Sure, whatever.
It does get kind of ridiculous. It does.
By the way, Squall keeps repeating, I don't know what's happening anymore. I'm like, thank you, Squall. This is the first time I've identified with you. Yeah. I don't know what's happening in this game.
Well, I mean, like, things get totally out of control for him, and at the end, it does kind of change him as a character, because he ends up searching for his friends, which he would never have done. You got to admit, at the end of the game, Squall is a very different character than when he started.
You know what? I don't even. Okay. I buy that Squall.
He has to be, because otherwise, how the hell does all this shit happen?
Here's the thing, though. Here's what I don't like about Squall's character. We're gonna take a deep dive on Squall.
All right.
First of all, he's a piece of shit, right? Here's the thing. His character flaw is what?
No,
his character. Yeah.
You call him a piece of shit, and I was just like, I mean, that's your opinion.
Right. Okay. Here's the thing. His character flaw is that he doesn't know how to trust other people, right? That's his thing. He's like, I'm a loner. Like, I don't know how to have friends. I don't know how to count on people. I don't know how to
hold on. I disagree with you there. His character flaw, I don't think, is that he doesn't know how to trust people. It's that he actively refuses to trust people because he's had some sort of trauma in his life that makes him decide that he can only continue like alone.
Yes.
Sure. It is a choice. It's not like he doesn't know how. It's like a choice for him.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. If you want to make that distinction, sure. But at the end of the game, it's still the same. Like, nothing changes.
No, that changes. No, that's a complete 180 at the end.
No, the only thing that changes is that, like, Rinoa is taken away from him, and he's like, "Oh, actually, I care about Rinoa." But that doesn't change his flaw. Like, his flaw is that he doesn't know how to count on people, and he still doesn't at the end of the game. Like,
at the end of the game, he goes back in time. Right, he winds up in this kind of like
I guess
that part's very confusing to me. It's this whole kind of time
I don't know what
thing.
The fuck happened at the end of this game.
It's a little crazy.
If you can explain that to me,
in a nutshell, I think it's a Back to the Future story, and he just ends up trying to like giving the information to the past sorceress that in turn starts all the events that started this game to begin with. Right, it's like a loop. The loop is completing. But then he ends up going, like, I don't know how, but he ends up saying, I want to be with my friends. And that's what makes him go through that crazy, like, cinematic where he's searching for, like, and then, like, his face is, like, blank and shit, like, at the end.
I get that he wants to be with Rinoa, but he still has
his friends, too. He said Zell, what's her name? Quistis or Selfie?
Yeah, Quistis.
He like calls all their names out. And he's like, where are my friends? Like, he's trying to go back to them, which is something he never would have done before.
Okay, I mean, I get at the beginning, like, I don't know.
He changes. It's a story. Okay. It's a character arc.
Yes, he changes, but I don't think he didn't really overcome anything. Like, he just like, oh, I have friends now, I guess. Like, where are my friends? I don't know.
Well, I don't know if it was so much that he overcame anything, except for like he just realized that he was wrong, maybe, or something. I don't know.
You know what I mean? Because like the whole first part of the game is like, I can't trust anyone. I can't count on people. Why count on people? They'll only let you down. Like, why? Yeah. But like at the end of the game, like he has
Rinoa softens his heart.
I get that. I get that he's in love with Rinoa, but
that love gives him the strength to start trusting other people too.
Yeah, but he doesn't do that. He doesn't trust people. That's my point. There's no point at the end of the game where he's like, I'm trusting my friends to come save me or whatever.
There is. You got to play Kingdom Hearts and then see him and how much he trusts all of his.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, he's like, hey, what's up, Tifa? Like, we're best friends now. And he's never even knew Tifa, but now he's best friends with her.
So, riddle me this. What if this is a love story about Rinoa and Squall that is, I guess, set against the backdrop of these two warring kingdoms and sorceresses and shit?
Something like that,
right?
Sure, yeah.
Why is the... Why is there time travel? What's the point of Laguna's story? Why is Laguna in this game? Like, what is the point of Alone? I don't get it. What's the significance that they all grew up together in the orphanage? Like, that's like a huge thing that's like never brought up again. Oh, I guess we just coincidentally all grew up together. Oh,
that part's really weird. I don't know what. I can't really defend that part of the story.
There's so much of the story where I'm just like, what is the point of this?
It's just to be a Final Fantasy, I think, is the point. It's just to go up its own ass and be like, yeah, Chrono Trigger did it, time travel, let's go. You know, I think they were just trying to up the ante. I don't know.
Yeah,
because the thing is, like the first disc, like if you just take the first disc at like face value instead of everything that you learn, you know, after the first disc, it could just be a game about a sorceress who's this evil son of a bitch and is, you know, has to be killed, and there's a bunch of schools being trained to try to kill her. Like, it can be like a completely separate, cohesive story, but instead they just took it. It's not.
Here's the thing. It turns out the sorceress you're fighting is actually a good sorceress, right? And then
they totally fuck it up. I know, I get that. Yeah.
Actually, the evil sorceress is Adele. Actually, no, that's not even true. The evil sorceress is Ultimisia, who's coming from the future to do time compression because reasons.
Well, okay. Well, like, if you wanted to tie it all together with Laguna and Elona, right? Her name is. You could say that the whole reason for the Laguna plotline and the Elona plotline is that is the only opportunity they have to kill the ultimate sorceress, Ultimisia, because Elona's ability is what allows them to create that time thing to, like, supposedly try and fight her, right?
Okay, sure, but like then Elona and Laguna are just their characters are just plot points.
Well, like, they have their own
their plot conveniences introduced to satisfy a nonsense villain who's coming from the future to do a thing that makes no sense.
Well, I mean,
you know what I mean?
I did see something recently that I don't think I ever really considered fully, was that they kind of have their own incentive to do what they do, because Alone wants to try to change the past.
Yeah.
So that her, I guess it would be her mom, doesn't die, right?
Yep.
And then she's using Squall and his friends to try to, like, use that connection to make that past change happen. And that's why they start having those dreams. And that's because presumably Laguna is Squall's father.
What? He is?
That's a theory that I don't know if it was like a theory or if it was gathered from the actual playthrough, but I never really considered that. But there's something that's always bothered me about that game is, like, there's all these little creatures called Moombas or whatever.
Yeah.
Like little like fox looking dudes, lion looking dudes. And they all call Squall Laguna.
Yeah.
And I always attributed that to the fact that Squall had been having the dreams. He's other Laguna character. But presumably, I guess this is because maybe he is of the Laguna bloodline. And that...
But like, what does that mean, though? Like that.
Well, that would explain. It would explain why Alone is trying to use Squall to change this past through, like, the connection. I don't know. It's just gives them an incentive other than, hey, you're this convenient plot tool.
But, like,
or whatever.
I feel like Laguna and Alone are just like a plot contrivance brought up to give the villain a weakness, but, like, they ultimately have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah,
you know?
Barely. Well, the part that bothers me the most about this story, I think everything you said merits some truth, but ultimately the weirdest part for me, and the part that I just can't excuse, is just how terribly convenient everything is. Like,
okay, yeah.
Like, conveniently, Laguna is, like, the leader of this other city or whatever, and, like,
which makes no fucking sense.
No sense. And conveniently, they all were in the same orphanage, and Adea, the sorceress, conveniently was matron to them all, and.
But not only, it's not even convenient though. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, like, I mean, it's just like, it's like as if a 5-year-old wrote a story and was like, and then all my best friends became the heroes of the.
That's exactly what it was. Because it was like, oh, wow, this big revelation. Like, oh, my God, we all grew up together. I can't believe we all forgot. What significance does this have to the story? Absolutely fucking none. Like,
right. Yeah, it's a little weird.
But it's made out to be this big revelation that they all remembered. Like, oh, wow. But, like, it ultimately doesn't mean anything. I don't know. That's what I find frustrating. Right. That's what I find frustrating about this game's story is that, like, so much of it is just fucking nonsense. Why?
Okay, now I would be remiss if I did not mention this. So
yeah,
I think that if you are playing through this game maybe a second time, so the first time you just take everything as it is and you freak out about it the way James is.
Right.
But then you go through it again and you read this article first.
Squall
and it's called The Squall is Dead Theory.
Yeah.
And it really makes you play this game on like a whole different level because I don't know. I think there's a video out there I wanted to watch. I didn't watch it yet where someone debunked the theory, but I love it because
apparently Katase himself has debunked it. He's like, no, that's not what we were trying to do.
I don't know. Maybe that's the case, but it just makes so much more sense if you really. So the theory is that there's a certain scene in the game where early on in the game, Squall is basically impaled by a giant ice spear by the sorceress. So, how does one not die from that? It's like it hits him like right in the chest, or at the very least, wake up with a pretty bad scar. And in the game, as it plays out, he wakes up and there's like no scar or anything, which I don't think is ever explained, really.
No, it's not. It's never explained.
And so the theory is that basically from that point on, the story gets all weird because Squall actually does die at that significant point in time. So everything after that spear is basically gets all weird and the characters all end up being super connected, but no one remembers because it's all like his like last dying, his flashes of life or whatever happening in his head or something, or this weird purgatory where like he's just remembering all the people he knew in his life and starts coming up with this crazy asinine story because it's not real. And I don't know, man. And then at the end, like the fact that he's forgetting Renoa's face and his face gets all crazy and stuff. It's supposed to be because he's stuck in a time vortex or something. I
was gonna say, which by the way, that's a really creepy cutscene.
It's very creepy. That's the only reason I think that this works for a spooky episode. That cutscene is terrifying.
I'm pretty sure he sees Renoa die in that cutscene, right? And I don't understand why she dies in that cutscene.
I don't know. I just know she's like slowly like he's like forgetting her face and stuff. But they repeat it over and over.
Yeah,
it's unsettling.
Well, no, right? And then at the end of it, her space suit, like her visor shatters, and she's.
Right, yeah. That's true. Yeah.
I didn't really.
Which is like maybe that's like his fear that was going to happen or something. I don't know, but. Presumably the whole theory goes on to say that like it is because he's losing his connection to the real world, so he starts forgetting everyone's like face and stuff, so like he's losing his connection and like letting his spirit is finally letting go.
I think this game's story is so like fast and loose and weird that you can just throw theories like that at the story and they kind of stick only because the story is so incomprehensible that like I can kind of see that,
that's a artistic feat in its own right. I think to create a story that's so modular in that way.
I would otherwise agree with you, but there's just so much fucking nonsense. Like there's so much that like definitely has nothing to do with anything in the story.
There is
that I can't ascribe like what an artistic decision to make the story like up to the viewer's interpretation. No, I think they just got like really fucking weird with it and just like went up their own.
I think they had a lot of grandiose visions, and I think if they had more time, maybe and more, maybe their deadlines pushed them a little too far. I think that they could have explained things in a better way that even if it went up its own ass, at least you were able to follow.
Yeah. Yeah. Both. By the way, both FF8 and FF9 were made on ridiculous deadlines.
Oh, sure.
Basically 1 year of development time, which is insane for
That's
a game
nuts,
of that. Insane for a game of that scope at that time. Tremendously impressive that they. I guess it's tremendously impressive that they got this game shipped at all. But
there's just parts of the dialogue that strikes me as like unfinished, like not enough explanation. Why did like it sentences seems really short and vague at the end of the game.
Yes,
it's just every sentence kind of makes me go, wait, like what? So I just feel like if they had a bit more time and were able to flesh things out more, maybe they would be able to tell a more cohesive story, even if it kind of went to ridiculous places, but is what it is, I guess.
All right. So anything else on FF8? Does that summarize our thoughts about this weird fucking game?
Well, after talking about it, I just want to reiterate, everything else about the game makes everything we just talked about worth it. Play it because you will love the visuals, you'll love the music, you'll love the idea and the story of at least the first disc, and you'll love the setting and the colors and the design. It's all great.
I guess if you can tolerate, if you can find a way to enjoy the battle system and tolerate a story that you know is going to go nowhere, then yeah, play this game.
All right.
That's Final Fantasy VIII, I guess. So our top 5 is this is the very age-old contentious debate. The top 5 best Final Fantasy games.
Now I feel like when John comes back, we should definitely be back on like the one list to rule them all. But I feel like for this list in particular, we have to have separate top 5s.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I think we're just going to be way off each other here.
Yeah, probably. I don't think we're going to be anywhere close. Do you want to go first?
Sure. My number 5 is Final Fantasy VII.
What? Fuck off! How is that 5? How the fuck is that 5?
It's totally 5.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
It is the 5th best Final Fantasy, for sure.
Wrong.
A lot of people will tell you that it's the greatest Final Fantasy ever. They're on the hype train. Everyone's just regurgitating other reviews about it. If you play it for yourself, you'll realize it's not that special.
It's amazing. Amazing.
It's better than 10 other Final Fantasies, certainly. But
Believe
it's not
the hype.
It's not the first.
Believe the hype.
But I don't think we have to necessarily break down every game here. I'm sure everyone knows all the Final Fantasies. So
okay, that's fair. Where's my list? I know I made a list for this.
How is it not already in your head?
Oh yeah. Okay, my number 5, fittingly enough, is Final Fantasy V. This is I don't know, probably one of the more overlooked and underrated Final Fantasies mostly because it was not localized in the US officially until like 99 or 98 or something like
pretty late.
Way late, and way after the life cycle of the Super Nintendo, right? So by the time there was like an official localization of Final Fantasy V, everyone's like, that console's old news. Like, no, I don't want to go back and play that crap. So a lot of people just straight up haven't played this game. But that's a shame because it's really good. It's the first, well, it's not the first Final Fantasy to introduce the job system, but it's the first Final Fantasy to really like flesh out the job and class system and really like make finding the really cool combinations of jobs and skills and abilities really interesting.
Which jobs are, I think, a really cool part of the Final Fantasy like series.
Yes.
Like, it's not something that always shows up, but when it does, I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah. Well, you should go play Final Fantasy V then. It's the 5th best one.
Wow. All right. My number 4, speaking of jobs and stuff, goes to Final Fantasy Tactics.
Ooh, good.
Yeah. I don't know that it would make a lot of people's top 5 Final Fantasy games, but
what? Why not?
I don't know. I just feel like because it's very different for a Final Fantasy, like, they're mostly JRPGs in a traditional sense.
Yeah.
They're not always tactical strategy games. Like as like what am I talking about? Like the tactics games.
Yeah,
they're kind of its own genre. They're kind of a genre, its own genre of game, right? Like tactics games, where it's like this turn-based,
I could see that, but I mean, the battle systems are kind of different in every Final Fantasy.
I guess. I just feel like it's like a separate enough genre that people almost treat it as like one of the Final Fantasy spin-offs instead of a main Final Fantasy. But I don't know. And again,
tell you what, there's some Final Fantasies I know that are going to be in your top 5 that should definitely be spin-offs.
Whatever.
Speaking of completely different genres,
whatever.
There's definitely some Final Fantasies that somehow snuck their way into the main numbered entries that definitely shouldn't be. But whatever.
Every Final Fantasy is an option for me, and I would say like another honorable mention to my top 5 is like FF14, which is an MMORPG, and that's
that's an honorable mention.
It's an honorable mention.
What the fuck is your top 5?
We're talking tippity top of the best here. So
I think okay.
So
I think
what I'm saying is, for me, like all gloves come off with Final Fantasies. Like they're all options.
I really thought 14 was going to be in your top 5.
It really, honestly, almost took the spot of FF7. I feel like you would have unfriended me. You would have unfriended me if I put.
We would have shut down this podcast. The podcast is over.
Honestly,
final episode.
I shit you not. My list before coming onto the show tonight was FF14 number 5 and FF7 nowhere in the list. But I decided last minute to squeeze in 7. So anyway, all that to say, Tactics is a little bit different than most of the main games in the series, but it's a great. I'm a sucker, obviously, for feeling of the game and the setting and color and design, and Tactics just hits all those things in the same way.
FF8 great setting.
It's amazing.
My number 4 is Final Fantasy X, which meh? You just meh?
Yeah.
No.
I like 7 more than 10 for sure.
That's fair. Yeah, definitely. But anyway, Final Fantasy X is fantastic. This game I replayed earlier this year, and I did actually kind of change my opinion on it. So, like, the thing that everyone remembers about Final Fantasy X is like the ridiculous cutscenes and the terrible voice acting, right?
So bad.
Which they are bad. They are bad. I've not changed my opinion on how on how like the voice acting direction is like so bad. And like the Final Fantasy X, by the way, was like one of the first true 3D Final Fantasies, and they were just trying to figure out how to like move and position a 3D camera in the universe. And like the cutscenes are so like awkwardly framed, and like the camera just like weirdly like zooms in on characters' butts a lot, which I don't know if it's fan service, like intentional fan service, or just like we don't know how this camera is supposed to work. Like,
maybe a bit of both.
Because there's so many times where the camera is just like shooting at a wall and there's nobody on screen like during cutscene. Anyway, I'm getting into the weeds. The cutscenes and the voice acting in Final Fantasy X are bad. They're very bad. Also, the main character is a little bit of a knob. But hey, same can be said of Squall, right?
Well, I was actually about to bring that up. Like, knowing how you feel about Squall, like, what do you think of stupid Titus?
No, Titus is a piece of shit.
He's an idiot. I hate that character.
Titus is a whiny idiot. Okay, so the main character sucks, and the presentation of the cutscenes and the voice acting is bad.
And the camera is bad.
The camera's bad. Everything else about this game is fucking stellar.
Whatever.
The story is... whatever! Can you debate that?
I don't think it's stellar. I think it's, like, decent at best.
No. The world building is very good in 10. I love the, like, 10 universe of... I don't know, whatever, Spira and, like, the Spiral of Death and all that shit. And by the way, there's like a bunch of really good like like shocking plot twists that are actually relevant to the story, not just like, we all grew up in the same orphanage. Whatever.
Well, that is like, true. The story is a little bit more cohesive. Yeah. It still goes up its ass, though.
It's way more cohesive. Does it?
At the end, it gets a little bit ridiculous. Like every Final Fantasy does, though, to be fair.
It does. Every Final Fantasy does that. But like, I don't mind it in 10. It's not that far fetched.
Right.
Like it's not that ridiculous. But yeah, they're like, I don't know. It's good. This game is good. It's a very good Final Fantasy. It's good.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
Just get past the cutscenes. Just get past them. The rest of the game is fantastic.
All right. Just put it on mute. You might like it more that way.
Yeah.
Except for the soundtrack's actually pretty good. So
soundtrack's very good.
They should just play this
soundtrack for. I was gonna say the soundtrack for pretty much any Final Fantasy is great.
Oh well, that's true. Well, yeah, but I mean, like, if they came out with a version of FF10 that was text only, it might do a little better.
Or just redo. That's kind of what I was hoping they were going to do in the FF10 remaster. Was just like, can we just reshoot all of the cutscenes and like revoice all the everything? Just redo.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay, what are we? 3? 3 for me goes to FF9.
Yeah, good. That's good.
I love FF9.
It's a good one.
It's good. And that's it.
Okay.
What else is there to say? I don't know.
All right. Well then, my number 3 is Final Fantasy.
Sorry.
My number 3 is Final Fantasy Tactics, which definitely deserves to be a mainline Final Fantasy game more than some of the MMOs. Yeah. Final Fantasy Tactics is fucking great. I love again like the world building. Actually, you know what? The only Final Fantasy. Yeah, the only Final Fantasy has better world building than 10 is Tactics.
Tactics has great world building, but I mean, 10 doesn't even come close. I mean, it does have 10 has better world building than well, I was going to say than 8, but I don't think I agree with that.
No, nothing in 8 is cohesive or makes sense at all.
No, but the world building is good in 8. They could there's definitely I mean, early on they established this whole thing of like the gardens and the sea. Like,
I mean, the setting is interesting, but like,
well, that's world building, right? I mean, and how the world works and stuff. Like,
yeah, but none of that makes any fucking sense in 8.
It does.
Okay, past this one, none of it makes any fucking sense.
Of course, yeah. After this one, shit gets crazy. But I'm saying like Tactics. From the very beginning, you're like introduced into this world that just has like its own heartbeat, man. Like you just feel like you are just plugged into this world that exists.
Yes.
I don't think 10 really does that quite as well, but
what? Come on, the intro is so good because you're like in
I
this
find
crazy...
the intro very fucking confusing. I don't know what the hell's going on in 10. The 10 starts
what
10 starts like how 8 starts to become later on. Like 10 is like immediately you're like, oh, there's this thing and it's eating you and you disappear up its asshole and like I'm just gonna stand here and then
but
in this other
all
world.
Of that is explained relatively quickly.
I mean,
like they don't
kinda
as opposed to like never again at all. Kinda, the whole thing's explained.
Okay, I'm just saying
kinda.
Whatever. It's a confusing journey, and at the end of
it's not a confusing journey. It's only confusing for the first like hour, and then they literally explained everything that happened.
Whatever. I guess. It's just hard to like accept their explanation, I guess, you know, in a similar way that 8 does when things are
like what do you mean specifically? Like what
I just don't get it. Like, this thing just shows up out of nowhere and like
it's this giant whale monster,
and it just gets even more confusing because now like like you have to die to stop it or something. Like I don't know. It's just. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not better world building than Tactics. That's all.
No.
Or as good, or even as good.
Yes. It's not as good, but it is very good.
Okay.
We'll be here all night. All right, what's your number 2?
My number 2 goes to Final Fantasy Mystic Quest.
Oh, come on.
What?
Really?
Yes, I love this game, dude. This game is, without a doubt, one of the greatest Final Fantasy games ever made. And nobody wants to play it because they think, oh, this game was made for like little kids. It's like a spin-off. It's a Super Nintendo game. Yes, it was designed to be an easier barrier to entry to the series because Japanese people thought American people were fat and lazy and couldn't play RPG, like hard RPGs, which is probably true.
Right.
And so it was targeted, specifically at maybe a younger generation who could have an easier time. But the music is fantastic. The story is, talk about cohesive all the way through. At the end, I literally shed tears for the first time playing any video game.
Okay.
That's how impactful the story was.
All right.
And it's an easy playthrough, and you'll love it. Play Mystic Quest. If most people who are Final Fantasy fans have not played Mystic Quest, and I think that's a damn shame.
All right, Final Fantasy Mystic Quest number 2. My number 2 is Final Fantasy IX. It's a good one. Yeah. It's a very good one. It's got...
Well, so what do you have to say about 9?
I would say it's got the best cast of characters.
Okay, that's fair.
Because, I fucking hate everybody in Final Fantasy VIII. I honestly hate every single character in Final Fantasy VIII, right?
Except, my thing is I hate everyone except Squall, but I'm with you, yeah.
Squall's the most hateable of all.
No, he's badass.
All right, so, as much as I love the story in 10, right, Tidus is a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the only, there are tons and tons of characters in Tactics, but, the only, quote-unquote party member you have is just Ramza, right? Right. 9 has the best cast of main characters. They're all,
I would agree with that.
Super fleshed out, and, all of them are... most all of them are, relatable and likable, and, you, I don't know, you get really invested in these characters' stories.
They each have their own sort of character arc,
Yes.
Their own kind of reasons for doing things, yes. And you find out later on.
Character arcs, most of which actually have a payoff, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I do love the kind of colorful world. It's
yeah,
it's got a little bit more vibrance to it.
Yeah, it's very much more
vibranity.
It's more fairy tale as opposed to
high fantasy feeling.
Yeah, 8 was going for a more realistic or I don't know.
Yeah, it was a big difference, right?
Yeah.
8, the character models even were a little bit more humanoid and rooted in realism, which I think is part of why I like 8 so much. But then it's weird because 9 is one of my top 3 favorite FF games, and it is a complete 180.
It's very way more fairy tale, high fantasy.
Yeah.
Whereas 8's more realistic. 6 and 7 are more dystopian, nightmare worlds kind of. Anyway, 9 is very traditional high fantasy. Got the best cast. Unfortunately, the story is really good for 2/3 to 3/4 of the game, and then it just goes up its own ass. Not as hard as not as hard as 8. Not nearly as hard as 8. But it does kind of go up its own ass, and you're like, wait, what happened to my cool fairy tale? What the fuck are we talking about now?
But again, that's just MO for the Final Fantasy series.
Yes. I suppose it does have a tendency to go up its own ass.
Yeah, it has to be the Final Fantasy. I mean, how else do you?
All right, what's your number 1, man?
My number 1 favorite game, if you could not tell, is Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh, oucho.
That is the number. Look, here's the thing. Yeah. Story gets ridiculous.
Your top 2 are Mystic Quest and 8?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Why? Okay, no, that's fair.
I mean, it's consistent. As a player, I feel like it's consistent.
I just mean there's better ones. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, we both had Tactics and 9 as our next couple.
Tactics and 9 are great.
Well, we've talked about 8 enough, but for all the reasons aforementioned, I love it.
Yeah. Okay, my number one, if you haven't guessed, is Final Fantasy VII. It's really good. It's really, really good. So good, in fact, that they're completely remaking the whole fucking game next year. Maybe the time you're listening to this, it's already out and you can go play it. Hopefully, it's really, really good. I hope it's really good. Hopefully, it's not bad. I kind of just want it to be not terrible. That would
I
be
feel like it looks like it's going to be bad.
really. I am hopeful for what have you seen about FF7 remake that makes you think it's going to be bad?
It's not so much the actual game itself, so much as how they are going about the new version of it. Like, I'm not a fan of them doing the whole episodic release thing.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
And I mean, like, I'm more interested in the story than like whatever kind of battle mechanics they choose to do. That's fine.
Same, yeah.
But it's just like, from what I remember of that game, like, I don't think I'm excited to buy a whole game that just takes place on Midgar and then that's it. And then buy another game.
I am. If you take Midgar and stretch that and like honest, like good faith, stretch that out into like a 60-hour interesting game. Like, I think there is a version of that I would really, really like and enjoy. I hope that is what we get. There's a version of FF7 remake that I think is going to that I would like, and I want it.
I think there's a version that I too would like, and then there's a version that I would hate.
Yeah, I kind of know what you mean.
I'll be open to it, till I see the result.
Yeah,
but I'm worried.
The cynical part of me, like with the whole episodic thing, is like, oh god, they're just gonna take one game and split it up into chapters and charge $60 and rip us all off.
Yeah,
that's the cynical part of me. I hope that's not. I
hope not too.
Because if you, honest to God, gave me like a Midgar game that is like a full length, all of like, fuck yeah, I'll take that. That's gonna be fucking sweet. Let me explore Midgar forever. I will love it. Yeah. No, I have another friend who's like a super purist who like loves the game so much that he's like, oh no, I didn't want like a remake of this. I wanted like a remaster. Like, just give me one for one, literally the exact same game, just with better graphics. And I'm like, that is like the most uninteresting. That is so boring. Like, I don't want that at all. Like, you could just go get the Steam version of this game and of the original game and install a bunch of mods if you want that.
I mean, like, I don't think that there's enough mods to do what you could do if you.
True. If you're gonna make like a full like AAA game with a full budget and all that, you're right.
Look, it's the same thing as the Disney movies, right? They're remaking all these Disney movies now. The Aladdin, Lion King, and Beauty and the Beast into like these kind of like quote unquote kind of more like live action or just better CGI now. But there's like, to me, the most obvious reason why you don't do an exact remake is Lion King. If you've seen Lion King, the remake that came out this past summer, right before the release of Lion King, Aladdin was released, like maybe like 2 months before. Aladdin, fantastic critical success. Lion King, a total failure. Why? Aladdin took the formula, switched it up a little bit, did a couple things different, did a couple things that reminded you of the original, right? So it had a little bit of fan service, but it didn't go full like copy, right?
Yeah.
Lion King did like frame by frame exact copy. It was terrible.
Yeah, no, that's exactly
better graphics. It was terrible.
That's exactly what I don't want from FF7 remake. Like, I'm excited that we're introducing new characters and apparently like new plot events and new shit, and I love what I've seen so far. Like, I love that. Anyway, whatever. We're not talking about that anymore. I'm excited for it. Sure. It's gonna be. I hope it's good. I hope it's not bad.
I hope so. I mean, I wouldn't hope ill on it. So I hope it's
there.
Good.
You go. Those are the best 5 fantasy games. All right. Should we endorse some stuff?
Sure.
All right. Let's endorse some stuff.
Should I go first? Or
do it.
Well, I kind of have 2 different things. So I always like endorsing things that I'm more currently doing in my life, right? So I'll go with this one. since I moved to North Carolina almost 5 years ago now, James. I don't know if you realize that. Time flies, right? I have tried to experience the outdoors a little bit more since we've lived here.
Yeah.
It's taken me 5 years, but I have tried. Well, because growing up in Florida, if you don't know, it's a hellhole.
Yeah, no one wants to experience the outdoors in Florida.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like you do it if you have to, but like other than that, no.
Right.
In North Carolina, we've got mountains. We've got a beach a couple hours away. We've got mountains the other direction. You can get to like 4 different states in a short drive. All sorts of different habitats, whatever. So one of the things I've always wanted to do since I moved up here, and have had a couple of friends that have tried to convince me to go with them, is do some hunting for food, not for sport, but for actual food.
Oh, wow.
Which I think I've talked to you about that I've always wanted to do, even when I lived in Florida. So recently, and I endorse, I went on to huntereducation.org, where you can do your online hunter education course for like any of the 50 states, because you do have to get kind of certified to legally hunt in most states. And yeah, online you can take this course. It's like a bunch of kind of like multiple choice quizzes after each unit that kind of teaches you some things about either like the ethics of hunting or firearm safety, or do's and don'ts and survival tips and whatever. And at the end, you have to take an exam and pass with a certain percentage, and then you get a certificate that allows you to get your hunter like license in person, which you have to go do a field exam for. But yeah, it simplifies the process, because used to be you have to like have like this 2-day course and have to find time to fit into your schedule. But now you can just go online and do most of the work online, and then just go and spend like an hour finalizing the license process after that. So hopefully, my plan is to shoot a turkey in the spring, in the turkey hunting season.
Ooh.
And for Thanksgiving next year, be eating my own turkey that I took the responsibility of earning myself. Take responsibility for the meat that I eat.
Nice. That's cool. All right. Nice. I am going to endorse anime. I specifically, I think on a previous episode I endorsed one of Hayao Miyazaki's movies. I just saw Spirited Away for the second time, and god damn it, it's a really good movie. It is I don't know, one of the more recent Miyazaki films. It's about a girl who like gets transported away to like a fairy tale land, but and she encounters like all these like manifestations of like Japanese spirits, and she goes on a bunch of adventures and whatever. But basically, it's a story about like coming of age and like growing up and whatever,
being spirited,
learning how to be
away.
Yeah, learning how to be brave and learning how to be whatever confident and all these good qualities. It's a good movie. The animation is absolutely stunning. Holy shit, what a beautifully animated movie. And the soundtrack is also fantastic. That's Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away.
That's good.
Yeah. Should we now also get Spirited Away?
I guess so. This is the end.
Yeah. We're done with this episode. So for the Good Games Podcast, I am James.
I'm Leo.
We will see you next time. Goodbye.
See ya.
Goodbye. By the way, fuck you, Final Fantasy VI. You're overrated as fuck. You're overrated. I said it. You're overrated, Final Fantasy VI.
Is it rated very highly for a lot of people?
Yeah, people love Final Fantasy. Are you shitting me? People love that game.
I always hear Final Fantasy VII. Like, to me, that's everyone's favorite.
Oh no. Well, okay. Usually, people come in two brands, right? Either you're Final Fantasy VII all the way, or you're Final Fantasy VI all the way. And the people who love Final Fantasy,
or you're the off-brand like me.
Yeah, I don't know what you are.
We exist, okay? I know at least 5 other guys who are FF8ers all the way.
What?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. We stick together.
When's the last time those other 4 people or other 5 people actually revisited Final Fantasy VIII, though?
Recently, like at least like one of these guys, we have to have him on the podcast sometime. Okay. He's really, I think you would like talking to him about video games.
All right, cool. Well, let's do it.
All these kind of like random games that we play, he's played them all. And I'm sure he's revisited 8 recently, and he's still like me thinks of it as number 1. And I'll tell you what else. Most FF8ers are also big Mystic Questers.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, Final Fantasy VI is overrated. You heard it here first. I'll tell you. Sure. I'll give Final Fantasy VI this though. It's got the best boss theme. Fucking Dancing Mad. Nothing beats Dancing Mad.
Oh, I don't really have it like in my head.
It's the best boss theme of any video game ever.
I imagine you're going to be riddling this episode with bits and pieces of different Final Fantasy themes, right?
Yeah, that requires me to like do work and editing and stuff.
Come on.
All right, I'll put Dancing Mad here just for
at least give me 8 on the intro and Dancing Mad on the outro.
Right. Well, yeah, the entire 12 minutes of Dancing Mad. Yeah, I'll